So I had the chance to see the Equalizer 3 the other day. Not having seen the other two, I enjoyed myself at the movie, but I think overall it was a beautiful movie and it was well acted and well executed and well shot. But some pacing issues and lack of a deeper emotional arc made this a pleasant scenic stop rather than a destination worth visiting. So overall, on the outset, I like to tell people, before I get into it, I um, I think if you have nothing better to do and there's nothing else, because there is a lack of other good options, and especially if you've seen the other two, great, go ahead and see it in cinema. But you could certainly wait for it at home too, um, or just skip it as well, and just kind of look at the trailers or the footage here, just to get a feel for it. Because like I said, it's beautiful. Well, let's get into it here though. So just so we're all on the same page. Let's get on to the breakdown of the plot. Just so I cover everything, I like to use the Wikipedia plot synopsis here just to kind of refresh myself. So the main characters, it stars Denzel Washington, of course, and it stars him as CIA Marine and DIA operative Robert McCall, Roberto, so essentially, the movie starts out with this vineyard, and you see all these kind of bloody bodies that have been shot and killed in different ways, and you didn't see how it happened, but you see the aftermath. And it starts off with a guy. Let's see what his name is here. I don't know. But it starts off with like the crime lord coming back home to that vineyard and walking through all those homes and knowing that his men have Roberto at at, with guns to his head, in the basement. So he, uh, yeah. So there he's telling him that, well, basically he flips the script and he shoots the guys instead, and he shoots the guy, Roberto shoots the other guy, in the back, and he gets a key from him to recoup some stolen money, which is the reason that it was all he was there in the first place. Um, but on the way out, he's shot in the back by Vital's son. That was his like adolescent, or just like 10-year-old son shoots him in the back on the way out, and he scares him off. And you think it's not that bad at first, but he kind of lays down, and he actually puts a gun to his head and he pulls the trigger, but it's out of bullets, of course. So if from there it kind of cuts to him, like, I think stumbling on the highway or maybe driving a little bit, but he's stopped. He's just like he's in shock, and this local Italian cop finds him and brings him, excuse me, brings him to a small town doctor in the town of El Monte, where the movie is shot. And there's all these gorgeous shots throughout the whole movie of this beautiful coastal town. I mean, you can see it here, and it's just they show a lot of the really tight corridors of the streets and the cobblestone and the shops, and there's a lot of great stuff of the show. And I wish they had shown more and more detail, but you do get a nice feel of the environment. But anyway, Roberto is brought to the small town doctor Enzo Arcio, and they had this running joke throughout that he uh, he was in order not to draw a lot of attention, he fell down. He fell down. But he said he was shot. No, he fell. He fell. So he treats him, and Enzo. This kind of comes into play later. Enzo asks him, "Were you a good man or a bad man?" Because he doesn't know if people are going to come looking for him. And Roberto says, I don't know. I don't know. And then, he kind of passes out again. And it kind of after there, it starts to, he wakes up and they talk uh, a little bit, and he starts to recover with the cane, and he slowly kind of starts to walk around the town and stuff. And then it basically, to explain everything that he where he was at, before the place that he shot up, he makes an anonymous call to CIA agent Emma Collins, who I guess is the daughter of somebody from one of the other movies. I don't know, they hinted at it later. But so he makes a call to her about the winery's role in the illegal drug trade disguised as normal business transactions in Sicily. So Collins and the other CIA operatives arrive at the winery, They find millions in cash, along with Captagon tablets hidden in a storeroom. So, of course, that, and she initially was kind of skeptical about this call that came in, but they found everything that Roberto said that was going to be there. So, but as this is going on, you start to see in this town, which is, like I said, this small Italian town, that members of the Camorra, which I guess is like the Italian mob or mafia, are really starting to harass and like kill villagers in order to force them out of housing. They're trying to. It starts with them holding up this fish market guy, this fishmonger, and extorting him for cash when he needs it for his refrigerator instead, and they beat him up even when he doesn't really want to give it to him at first. So it's just like this group of like 4 or 5 thugs that are kind of doing that kind of throughout the town. Um, but like I said, throughout all this, Roberto is still like kind of walking through the town with his cane, and he doesn't necessarily want to get involved, of course, but he's just kind of slowly looking at everything, and he's not averting his eyes either. He's letting them see that he's looking at them, and they know they see him, but they just go on about their business or whatever you want to call it. Um, so that happens, and then I guess kind of soon after that, you see that that group of gang. So, well, I guess next, the head of police is tortured by Marco's brother. Let's see. Well, basically after that, yeah, the head of police is tortured because he put a call in like, hey, these people are like messing up my town, and the guys are like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, and he basically kind of gets them under his thumb. So, and then you also see that that group is part of a larger organization, and he's the brother, the main guy in this antagonizing group is the brother of the bad guy of the large organization. He's like, hey, we're doing some pretty messed up drug stuff here, but we just need you to keep on antagonizing and roughing up the town. Like, that's what we need you to do, guy. And the brother, the first bad guy that we see is like, oh, I want to help you out, brother, and get involved in more. But he's like, no, 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 just keep on, roughing up that town. So of course they do a little bit more and more. And like I said, there's a scene where they rough up the police, officer of the town, the police sheriff or constable, or the main officer of. And then I guess the next relevant scene really is that there are kind of everybody's at the dinner. The police officer and I think Enzo's there. The guy who saved him up. The police officer's name is Gio, by the way. And then Roberto's there. And it's kind of like this nice, tiny, quiet basement, little, you know, cozy Italian restaurant. And these guys come in, and they're kind of in public. They're like, "Hey, Gio, you really shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have put that call in about that fire because oh yeah, the big inciting incident was that they set the market, the fishmonger's business on fire. They just like torched it, and just went up in flames and everything they had. And so it was a pretty emotional moment, So, um, so they do that, and because of that, like I said, the Geo puts in a call about them, and they intercepted that call because they have people throughout the Italian government there. So they come to rough up Geo, and I forget exactly what they're doing. They had like a gun to his head or something. They were really roughing him up in public more than they should have. And Roberto is like looking at him across the room, is like, "Hey, like stop that!" And he just like kind of draws their attention, and the main antagonist there. What is his name even? I don't even fucking know. Whatever his name is, the first bad guy that we see there, he's like, "Stop looking at me," like, "Stop looking at me, guy," because he sees Denzel looking at him, and he sees him. He's been looking at him the whole time. He's like, "I keep on seeing you look at me. I'm gonna shoot you if you keep looking at me." And it was a pretty good scene, like the way that he handled it. Like he comes over and sits next to Denzel, and Denzel does something where he like snatches, because like there's this whole running thing where like if you're close to him with the gun, then he like snatches it away from you. Like he can just like grab it quickly because you're like maybe distracted or you're so close that he can just kind of grab it on you. So he snatches the gun away from him. I don't even know if he had one out necessarily. I think he was just sitting close to him. So I don't even think he snatched a gun away because it was just like just the threat of these guys kind of roughing it. So anyway, he's sitting close to Denzel, and Denzel like grabs his like arm and is like pressing down, and he twists his arm, and he like kind of has him up against the wall. They're still both seated, but he's like in a lot of pain. He's like, "You feel that?" He's like, "This is your pressure point right here, and you press a little bit on this, and blah blah blah. It hurts a whole heck of a lot." And this is he says, "This is level 2. This is level 3 right here. If I go to level 4, you're gonna shoot yourself, and nobody wants to see that." So it's kind of, of course, this causes like his whole crew to kind of get ruffle their feathers for a minute. But he's like, "No, tell your guys to get out. Just tell your guys to leave." So he's like, "All right." So the main bad guy tells his guys to leave. So then Denzel says, "Put your gun on the table." And I thought at this moment that the guy was going to try and shoot him, but he really didn't. He like got his gun out and dropped it on the table. Because I mean, from the bad guy's perspective, yeah, he's got his arm like that. But if he shoots him, it's over and done with there. Maybe Denzel breaks his arm, but he should still be able to get that shot off. Maybe he shoots his pants, but he's got the situation done with. And I feel like if he was a real Italian badass, that's what he would have done. But I don't know. I guess maybe the character. I mean, it could have gone either way. Whatever. So he puts the gun on the table, and Denzel's like, Roberto's like, I've really come to like this town. These people really like me, and they've rubbed it off on me, and I've liked it. I don't want to see anything bad happen to these people. I care about what happens. Blah blah blah. He's like, so I want you guys to stop leaving them alone. He really just kind of tells them like to stop, just and as I'm watching this, I'm like, well, that they're just gonna run away and kind of come back, you know. But he really, Denzel, like doesn't, uh, mutilate him or maim him or anything or give him something to. He really just tells him like, hey, please, just like I'm asking you nicely here, because he's very pleasant, like just walk away and all that, or just run away. And he even kind of says like, I'll be here or something. But anyway, they go out, and like I said, I knew. I was sitting there thinking like that those bad guys are gonna go out and kind of that next night or that night or the next day they're gonna get retribution on them. So as they're kind of organized around their truck and stuff, and they're a little bit downhill from their SUV, they're talking, and then all of a sudden you see like one guy who was at the SUV like careen downhill in it and just like plow into another guy, and they're both just dead, like dead on the outside, you can tell. And then Denzel comes in and I don't know, like shoots or punches one of the other guys, and then he gets the main bad guy, and I'm pretty sure he kills him too, of course. I mean, that's the main thing, but I forget exactly how he did it. It's him shooting or punching or whatever. But the point is that that kind of satisfied my qualm there of like how quickly is he going to remedy this overarching situation, because it obviously needs to be dealt with. So obviously he did that, and that was pretty expeditious and quick and smart and intelligent of him. So I do have to give the writers and everybody credit there. Excuse me, because that was a well executed scene, and it got ahead of my concern with the previous one. And so I think that's any good movie should kind of excite and get ahead of you. Like I know what you're thinking. Not just go in a direction where he like attacks them all with the bubble gun or something like that, something just silly that would never work, or, does kick flips and flips them all, like, impractical stuff. Like you can do that, but that's not, that's what do they call that? Eschewing expectations or something, going against the norm. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can do that, but by beating somebody, like, where they're thinking they're going, and by beating them to it, it's, and doing so in a resolving, in a resolving manner. I think there's a better word I could say there. But by doing it in exciting, in a way that you would expect, there. So my one qualm against it is like there's nothing that would surprise you there, but it is satisfying. It's satisfying, and it's well executed, and it was well shot, and like I said, it was well timed too. So this happens, Denzel kills the main bad guy, but it's like I said, there was the brother of a guy who runs a much larger organization. And I guess I should say, as all this is going on, you kind of get hints of, that CIA agent working with another CIA agent as well to kind of uncover all this from the vineyard's standpoint. And I guess around here, she starts to make contact with Denzel, and he kind of tips her off, like, why would they be running drugs through the biggest port, like the hardest port to get through in town? And it's so they can also do something in one of the other ports. Let me take a look here because I forget exactly where that. Yeah, so like I said, it's like, why were they trying to run drugs through one of the hardest ports to get things through? And I guess it was so they could also run things through another port as well. He gets there to this coffee shop at the first day. He's like, "Oh, I want a tea," and the waiter's like, "All right, I'll be right back." And then the owner comes over, and she's about his age, I guess maybe a little younger. And she's like, "Tea is only for old ladies and for somebody else that's not you." So, and she's like, "You don't need tea. Drink this instead." And they never say what it is, but it's like some sort of foam. It's probably like a cappuccino or something. And he drinks it and he seems like he enjoys it. But every other subsequent scene where he's at the cafe and he's there like a half dozen times more, he's drinking tea. He's drinking tea each time out of a kettle, which is what he originally wanted. So it's showing that you know that he's just not really accepting everything that this culture has to offer. I mean, I guess he tried it, and I guess maybe he just didn't like it. But if that's the case, I feel like you should just put a line in there that's like, "Oh, I really like tea instead," or tea reminds me of this, or tea settles my stomach better, or I prefer tea as opposed to that, or that drink you gave me was good, but I like tea better. Something to say like, this is why I like it better, as opposed to just being like, "No, I like tea. Tea's what I like." It just you can have that same reason there, but without that reason, it just makes it seem like that he's rejecting the community that he is transplanted himself into. Because, the big through line with the story is that he, you know, he gets taken to this village to recuperate after a gunshot wound, by a nearby police officer, and he's there for longer than he wants to be necessarily, and he thinks maybe some other people might come for him, and he does, he's not too sure, but he kind of grows to love that village throughout his time recuperating there. So, with that in mind, maybe it was important to spend the time they spent walking around the village earlier. But like I said, by having him reject the main drink of this village, of this town, by taking his own thing, it just kind of showed that he is not quite wanting to assimilate, even though that's kind of the whole point of the story. By the end of the story, he's like, "I love these people, and I'm giving you a chance to walk away, bad guys. All I wanted you to do was walk away and not hurt these people." And then he just shows them at the end hanging out there and been hanging out with their football, celebration and stuff. So he clearly wants to become part of this town, but like I said, it's not even that he has a preference. It's the filmmaker's choice. Because understand, like when we're talking about this cup that this drink that he's drinking, it's not a drink that Denzel is or isn't drinking. It's a drink that the filmmaker, that the director or the writer, any combination thereof said, "Hey, he shouldn't drink this. He should drink tea instead." So unless this is something from one of the first two movies that I'm just not getting, it's once again just setting up that he's just not quite accepting this town on a whole level, and that's fine to do that, but then that should be reflected somewhere else. Like he should have something that's like, "I really love this place, I want to stay, but I just can't." "I really love this place, I want to stay, or I want to go somewhere else, but I feel like I have to stay here because it hurts to go home." Something to kind of show that he's just a little broken, or just a little reserved, or a little stuck somewhere else, because that's what that symbol is doing. That's what that characterization element is doing, because it was hit on so much. It wasn't a main focus point, but they showed it. And doing that, having tea over, latte or whatever, so much, and anything that is does come up frequently is important. I forget the word for that, but anything that comes up often, is important, because it wouldn't come up often otherwise. And that's usually how you make your message. When something comes up over and over again, how people react or deal with it is usually kind of the message you're trying to say. Like, if everybody kept someone coming across like a type of turnip that's different from all the other turnips they're picking, somebody might say, "Oh, it's okay, we like all kinds of turnips here," and that's the message that all kinds of turnips are accepted, and everybody's accepted, blah blah blah. So once again, I just feel like that small thing, but that's indicative of the lack of a clear, cohesive message throughout the entirety of the story. The other thing that I have umbrage with regards to the coffee shop scenes is that he flirts with, kind of loosely. It's more so her, the owner of this coffee shop in the first half, and they, hang out a little bit, but not even like on a date. It's just kind of like running into each other throughout town, and they clearly kind of both enjoy each other's company, her more so than Denzel, but that's never really like developed further. It's clearly just a very platonic friendship. Maybe she wants it to be more, I don't know, maybe Denzel's thinking about his ex-wife with that spoon or something. I love your coffee shop girl, but this my ex-wife used to with the spoon, and I just can't stop thinking about it. Ugh, so I just felt like maybe that was a missed opportunity there, because if they had developed that relationship more, once again at the expense of not having all these rehabilitation stair walking scenes, you would have like identified with this struggle to save this town a little bit more. You would have maybe gotten into that reason of why he prefers tea over the latte, and that would have hit to that, well, his characterization, to where he really wants to go and all that. So, I just feel like that's clearly where they tried to kind of anchor his emotional center of why he loves this place, that coffee shop, because he was there so frequently, and he was there to like watch the movie, and it was in the square, and a lot of people passed by, but he always felt like a tourist in that environment, as opposed to somebody who was from there, or who's lived there, and that's kind of I'd say that no, that's kind of how I felt about him throughout the whole town. The only place that I felt like he ever felt like at home in that town, like looking at it, was those stairs, because like he just kept on going up and down the stairs to get better, and that's everywhere else he felt like a tourist going through it, which wasn't what they were trying to point. They're trying to say this is kind of he was trying to adopt that place as a home so that he'd feel the need to protect it and get rid of the mafia that were there. So so without that kind of need, without that feeling of acceptance, without that want to be in the town, you wouldn't have him driving to stop the bad guys, which is the whole point of the movie. Uh, so more emotional appeal would have made everything stronger, a better comeuppance scene. He's the equalizer. No, he's going to equalize. Like, why can't we show more of him equalizing? I want to see Roberto McCall equalize some people. Not just equalize them from off screen. On to kill people that are on screen. That's no fun. With regards to closing the movie, he equalizes all the people, and he tells them, he tells Langley that he equalized the people or whatever, and back in Langley, I guess Collins received a promotion for helping in that trade, and and then she's revealed to be the daughter of somebody from the other movies, and then it's also shown that he meets Roberto meets with the girl one more time, I think while she's in the hospital, the CIA agent who was helping him, and he gives her a bag of money. She's like, "What were you there for? To get a bunch of money?" She's like, "No, I just got $300,000 and $334,000 and 28 cents. That's all I got." She's like, "What's that for?" She's like, "Give it to this guy." Just some random guy who's probably in one of the other movies, but damned if I know. So she does, and the guy's like, "Thank you, it saves us, it saves our house, because we were gonna lose our house." And I guess the whole that was the inciting incident in the movie, that Roberto McCall had to go down to this Mexican gang to get their money that they stole from this guy. That was his home money, his money for his house. So it was a nice resolution. If that was something that was set up in one of the other two movies, I mean, I guess good job for finishing that loop up. But I feel like everything should stand on its own, in terms of the story. So once again, all you needed was a line in there like, uh, somebody told us he'd get us the money, or like, I knew Robert would get it, or I don't know, like however they're connected, just put something in there, or have him say it, like, oh, I helped them out a couple of months, because he didn't even say. He's like, oh, it's just people who lost their money. She's like, are they friends of yours? No, they just lost their money. I don't even think they hired them or anything. So, uh, like all these things, like people were just doing good and stuff. It's like that's all good, but how do they make bills? Like how do they make their money? Does Roberto Mical just go around like eliminating or equalizing drug gangs and subsequent related drug cartels in neighboring towns? Just to get random people their money? Is he like the A team just rolling through and the Equalizer team, the E team? Anyway, like I said, it's overall synopsis, overall recommendations, and all that. It was a fun time, and I enjoyed seeing it, and it kept my attention just because Denzel Washington is a good actor, because the setting was so gorgeous, because the cinematography was good, it was shot really well, because the actors were all really good. The scenes were all really exciting. They were short, but they were exciting. The last one, I guess, not as much. They were just shooting people through a window. Um, but it just had a lot of missed opportunity. It could have been better. Like it's like the basic bones, the basic skeletal framework for good, Equalizer come up in this movie is there. You got the bad guys and the good guys rolling through. We'll see how much of it all he wants to bite off, but it's just executed not to the heights that it could be. Once again, to a higher emotional arc it could have been, through way of a better relationship with him, the female barista, and through a more satisfying equalizing arc, because that is the name of the movie. So, hope you all enjoyed this review of the Equalizer 3. Maybe go see it at some point, or see it when it comes out on DVD, video, or VHS. I'm sure it will be in a Blockbuster video near you soon. Thanks for stopping by.